Welcome to the Cashflow Academy Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Tanner. This is where we make investing fun, simple, and real. And man, I've got a treat today on deck. We have a very special guest. He's the author of One Decision Away Philosophy. One decision really can change everything, I'll tell you that. We have author David Atkins with us. He is a retired police captain from the New York City Police Department. And I can't wait. I'm really gonna set this up because it's important to bring gravity to this conversation. But like, subscribe, notification bell, and also if you haven't dropped by, stock is very important. Cashflowbonus.com. That's cashflowbonus.com. Lots of free stuff. Let's talk a little bit about One Decision Away. To bring gravity to this, I'm going to set it up this way. I remember when I was diagnosed with cancer as a young man, you kind of think about your mortality a little bit, and I was lucky to sire a couple of kids after that. And people often say, if you're on your deathbed, what would you tell your kids? So hopefully that brings gravity to this. And I said, sons, there's only two moments in life. There's moments where we would call inconsequential, where what you think and what you say and what you do isn't really going to matter. You're going to get chocolate ice cream or pistachio. People at Baskin-Robbins thinks it's a life-changing decision, but you've been to McDonald's 1,000 times. You don't look at the menu for an hour trying to figure this out. There's other times, and I tell my boys this, there's other times that we call defining moments, where the decisions you make, what you think, how you approach it, what you say, and most importantly, the decision on what you do will define the rest of your life. And people confuse those two constantly, especially when young people date. I think they confuse that. And so we're going to talk a little bit about making decisions. And as traders of stocks and options, or as investors, and not confusing the two, it's all about decision making. So this book, One Decision Away Philosophy, one decision can change everything. Let's start with this, a little background, David, if you would. What made you decide to go into law enforcement? And obviously, my brother's a homicide detective, and when he was a beat officer, he didn't get in a firefight every day, but whenever the bullets were flying, there were decisions to make, and you guys trained for this. So I'm dying to learn more about this. A little background and why'd you write the book?
Absolutely. And thank you so much. Thank you so much, Andy. And wow, I just hearing you overcame cancer from the younger days and what you've been through. And thank you so much. It's an honor to be on here. So, yes, I mean, I'll give you my background. So I'm a retired New York State police captain with the state troopers. I did 22 years. Was a first responder at Ground Zero at 9/11. Spent many weeks down at Ground Zero. But parallel to that, about 2010, I was in a much different place. I was an investigator with the state police, which is like our detective division. But my wife and I, at that point, we had 2 kids going on 3. We were 6 figures in debt. And there was this defining moment that I remember, like we would argue over things simple as like the grocery bills, living paycheck to paycheck. And you probably have heard, you make more, you spend more. I was making a good salary. My wife was a school teacher with 60 credits on top of her master's. And here we were like arguing over the grocery bills, 6 figures in debt. And I finally was like, something needs to change. Because my whole time through my state police career, I was a New York State Trooper of the Year, Investigator of the Year. I always was about trying to thrive and be my best. And I realized I was allowing my own personal life to be affected. And I had this pivotal moment sitting down with my wife, looking her in the eye in the kitchen, I'll never forget, and just saying, something needs to change. Like, we can't go on like this anymore. And all the fear and self-doubt, like, what if she didn't hear me out? What if she didn't listen? Like, I hesitated at first to make that decision to have the conversation with my wife. But I had the conversation and she totally agreed. And that one decision, we decided to start taking care of our physical health more because, the running the rag race of having kids, and she struggled to lose the baby weight. And me, I was 20 pounds heavier than I was now. And we started doing a program, an at-home program called P90X. I don't know if you've heard of P90X.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we did this.
Tony Horton.
Tony Horton, right, exactly. P90X, the Xers. So we started doing this program at 5 a.m. before our kids got up. It was the only time to do it. We started getting great results, and we had no idea at the time that when people started asking us about it, there was a business opportunity in direct sales. Beachbody had a multi-level marketing industry, the one that everybody's like, it's a pyramid scheme. It's not going to work. Don't waste your time. All the negativity was there. But I'm like, you know what? What if this could change our life? We are living paycheck to paycheck. Maybe now we're walking billboards. We got great shape. So, I had that vision. I made that one decision there. We went into the business, and in 2 years, we paid off 6 figures in debt. A few years later, we built an international team to 1,400 people around the world, and we became 7-figure earners in the company. And then because of that decision, Beachbody, the parent company that owned P90X, was like, David, you're state police. You have 3 kids now. Like, you built this unbelievable business in our company. Would you mind sharing your story with people? And it started in the local library at a small local event, 15 people, and then it was 100, then it was 1,000. Then I'm speaking to 20,000 people in the NFL Superdome, and people are like, David, you have a gift. Have you ever thought of being a keynote motivational speaker? And I'm like, a speaker? Like, I run an entire county with the state police, and I have this business. I have 3 kids. Like, no, like, how would I manage? But in 2021, I took that leap of faith. I like to say I fueled my faith and starved my fears. And now the last couple of years, I published my first book, The Leveled Up Life. And then I've been keynote speaking all over the country, big companies, ADP, Caterpillar, speaking to thousands of people. And then, yes, just yesterday, my second book, The One Decision Away, 2 days ago, published and became a bestseller in under 24 hours. Number 1. And I guess this is my point, and that I drive home, and how this one decision away philosophy came to be. I was on stage about 1.5 years ago, and I was saying to my audience, stop overcomplicating your life. Like, there's one decision you can make today, and life will reveal to you, or God will reveal to you, what you need to do next if you can make that one pressing decision. For me, it was having that conversation with my wife, and that led to getting healthy, and that led to a business, and that led to what I do today. And I said, I wouldn't be standing here today if I didn't have that one decision to have that conversation with my wife. And it happened by accident, Andy. Like, I get passionate on stage. You may see that. And on my book signing line from my first book, The Leveled Up Life, people were saying to me, David, I got to make the one decision. I got it. I'm procrastinating on whether it's their health, their business, their career, saving money, whatever it is. And then the next event 2 weeks later, just me on the stage again, was just driving home the point of, because my keynote title used to be No Excuses. So I would say, stop making excuses. There's one decision pressing in your life, and it's different for all of you. Make that one decision. And then again, on my book signing line, people like, David, one decision. And I had the light bulb moment. Like, oh my goodness, one decision away was my life. And I've been doing it throughout my whole life. It's brought me here. My audience is picking this up, which speaks volume, because it's not me, it's what they're getting. And then this past year, I went all in, and my keynote now is one decision away. And then I said, I better write this book. And then bam, and then it hit bestseller so quickly. And I know that was an earful, but it's been the trajectory of my life. Does that make sense?
It's fantastic, David. What a story. The one decision is really interesting, and you kind of set up the show with this. Is you talk about someone will see a book like The One Decision Away philosophy, right? And they'll look at it and say, well, on Amazon, I don't know how much it costs, but let's say books are $20, $30, whatever they are. Right. I don't even know what they are, whatever they are. and someone looks at that and says, well, that book must be worth, $20, $30. What they don't really think about, and this is what I mean by when people don't understand inconsequential moments from defining moments, and they confuse the two all the time. And they'll hit things that are inconsequential as if they could define their lives, and they don't always see what the defining moment could be. I remember a friend of mine, gave me a copy of Rich Dad, Poor Dad when it first came out in the 90s, and that propagated through the network marketing community. That's how he got it. Yep. And, he was going to recruit me in this thing, and he gave me this book, and I, okay, great. Yeah. And it sat on the shelf for a while, and I think, what was that one decision that made me read that? Because it brought millions of dollars to my life, millions. Crazy how you trace back, and you think about P90X. My wife does the NPC competitor thing, and we're way too old to be doing that stuff, but she likes it. And me, I lift my, I almost named my kids Ben and Jerry. I was that close. I lift the spoon, but and it's really easy. I did that P90X with her one time. I was like, man, that's a pretty easy decision not to do.
Yeah, right.
So I'm always fascinated with like, what makes people make that one decision? What is it about our lives as we bounce around and we can act or be acted upon? Yeah. What's your reflection on if people want to find that one decision that changes their life and starts this whole new, like that was a defining moment, right? Changed your entire trajectory.
Totally.
Tell me about that.
I love it because right in my book, when I put it together, the first part of the book is like, these are the obstacles you will face. And the second part is, these are the tools to make that one decision. And to answer your question, it's when I realized, number one, my kids deserve the best of me, not what's left of me. And what I mean by that, one of my chapters is you have to have a why that's bigger than yourself. Because if it's just about ourselves, we'll quit because we won't have a driving force to do what we do when it gets hard, right? Or another chapter I talk about is having a vision for your life. I feel like, I've heard once before, 98% of the world lives life by default. We wake up, we just kind of go through the motions of life. We accept our life for what it is instead of leading our life to where we want to go. So for me, it's like, what goals do you have? What's that vision for your life? What's that God-given potential you have? So I had this vision back with my wife, like, we can't go on like this. We have to improve. My driving force was I had 2 daughters. Now I have 3, but my daughters deserve to have a dad that's here, that's the best that he can be. So that was another driving force. So I think so often people need that moment to realize it's so much bigger than ourselves, because except for one tiny speck on this world, the world is made up of people other than us. And if you want to make an impact and leave a legacy for your kids, it's the impact you make. It's the things that you do, right? So for me, it was like, I can't go on like this anymore. I had that vision. We set the goals and I had that big why to push me, and it still does today. And I'm always growing every single day to try to be the best I can be.
When we come back, we're going to continue our conversation on these moments of choice, and I'm going to share insights, and we're going to get more from David on how people can come to that crossroads, recognize that one big decision and make it. We're going to have a 30-second break, and we'll be right back with author and now speaker David Atkins.
Really, I think anybody can follow Andy's steps to learn this. He made everything so easy. You can actually ask real-time questions with them and get real-time answers. There's so many different trading platforms. They will take the time and be able to show you how to use whichever platform you're on.
I've just really enjoyed how they have taken what could be complex material and really made it simple to understand. Learned how to take some of the complex trading strategies and produce cash flow. They really go beyond just trading stocks. They really make it about lifestyle to make yourself the best person you can be. Everybody that's an expert started out as a novice. You got to start somewhere.
Welcome back to the Cashflow Academy Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Tanner. Make sure you click like and subscribe so you can get great content like this. Also, make a decision to go to cashflowbonus.com. Get your free stuff. I'm here with David Atkins. 9/11. I tell you, I sell books the same way every time, so my listeners are used to this, and so sometimes I've had people say, Andy, don't turn your podcast into an infomercial. I say, well, first of all, people love information, and second of all, I wouldn't have a guest on if he wasn't worth reading. And I think if I could take you, we go down to New York and get ourselves a great steakhouses there. I could take you out for a steak, and we could have dinner and drinks. And if I had a chance to do that, I'd pick up the bill. That's going to run me a lot more than the price of one decision away philosophy. And yet, I know as an author, I've written a couple of books as well. And I know as an author, you put your heart and soul in those things. There's a lot of thought. And I guarantee people, if they read one of my books, they're going to get a lot more than what they just get at a dinner conversation. Yet, it's so much less expensive. So I'm telling you, if you want to talk to a guy that's been in the 9/11, that's done a P90X, that spoke at the Superdome and make a decision, build an international network of people, started a business, well, maybe you want to talk to that guy for a little bit. Well, I don't know if you're available for steak, but I know you can go to Amazon. You can pick up a copy of the one decision away philosophy. One decision can change everything. Let's talk about that crossroads. You mentioned, there's a lot of things that stop people. You mentioned the why. And I appreciated your daughters, because I'm I'm a father first, probably a student second, and everything else is kind of after that.
Right.
And it's interesting when people are afraid. And I like your thoughts on this, because 9/11 was just a day of heroism. When people are afraid, what drives out fear? And I'm not a biblical scholar, but love really has a way to drive fear. If I grab someone, I'm going to throw them into Niagara Falls. They're going to resist me. If I put a bucket of money upriver, $1 million, they're thinking about it now.
Right.
But I'll tell you, if I take that child and throw them in there, they're in that quick. And that why, that love, I could tell if you got daughters.
Yeah.
Boy, I don't know. I feel bad for who's trying to date them.
Yeah. I'm dealing with it now. But yeah, I think, I talk about fear. I even say sometimes it's false evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
Listen, we all have fear. We all have fear. Actually, the definition of the one decision away philosophy, I say it's a choice made in the present moment, backed by courage and faith to move you one step closer to your goals. And the reason I say courage and faith is we all have fear. I have fear every single day, even though I speak to a ton of people, whatever it is, we all have fear. But you have to learn to step into it, and you only need one little word, and that word is courage. Just having a little courage to step into that. And then when you're facing your fear, I talk about courage and faith, because for so often in life, all we can go on is faith. And I believe faith is the belief in things we cannot see. Like every one of the times I had the fear when people like, David, that Beachbody business, that's not going to work. It's a pyramid scheme. Why are you wasting your time? You know what? I saw the vision and believed in myself more than the haters and naysayers. You know what I learned, Andy? One thing I've learned through all the growth, like the David Atkins I am now is not the same one from 2010. The growth journey of reading books, I believe personal development, self-growth is the secret to success. And even though I pushed it away for 2 years, see, I lost my train of thought, what I said. So I lost my train of thought, Andy. What was I just saying?
Well,
See, this is live.
I'll tell you. Well, first of all, you quoted, I don't get in the pew like I should, but I think we were talking about Hebrews. We were talking about faith that are things that are
belief
hoped for,
in things you cannot see.
That are true. And there's a great antidote for fear called courage.
That's exactly it.
And I'll tell you, in my experience, I'd like to hear you comment on this. When people come to the crossroads of making a decision, it's often not even what they're going to lose financially. It's really, I think people get paralyzed by the idea of disappointment. I don't want to get my hopes up emotionally. I remember the first stock I ever bought. I was nervous because it was new to me. I bought 10 shares of like Panera Bread, and it was $16 a share. That's a $160 investment. Anyone can have a $160 loss if it went bankrupt and survive.
Right.
The fear wasn't losing $160. The fear is, what if I get my hopes up that I could get good at this, and then all of a sudden I find out I don't? What if I put in the P90X tape and I don't get the six-pack out? And people always are so afraid of the downside that they often don't understand what investing we call the risk-reward ratio.
Exactly.
And when we look at your life, the reward side of starting that, okay, let's say you start that business. Let's say it is a pyramid scheme. Okay, great. You learn something, and you're still fighting over the grocery bill. You really didn't lose anything at all, other than maybe you're a little disappointed.
No,
the upside is $1 million and a new life and helping people and getting on stages and writing books. So that risk reward, when you have unlimited upside and a very limited downside, the only thing that stops people is a fear of just being disappointed.
Exactly. And I like to say struggle is less painful than regret. Like, I don't want to be at a point in my life where I look back and said, what if I didn't try that speaking? Or what if I didn't do P90X? Or what if I didn't do that business? Well, I wouldn't be here today, And the point you made me think of that I was forgetting is I've learned to never take criticism from somebody that is less successful than me. Like, I will only take constructive criticism from somebody that's more successful. So you in the Cashflow podcast, you are a guy when it comes to money, I'd be like, all right, let me listen to Andy. But everybody that's knocking when I did Beachbody, or people that knocked that, oh, you're going to be a speaker? Like, David, you were a cop. You know who cheered me on and said, you absolutely have a gift? It was the CEOs and people who saw me speak that were more successful than me. It was the people that were in debt that were saying, you're going to waste your time or don't build that business. It doesn't work. But everybody that it did work were like, no, you can do it. Right. And we fail, I think, all levels of success. People that are successful are willing to fail more than other people. It's not a stop sign. It's a growth sign. So for me, like, I have learned that the obstacles are part of the process, and I just keep going forward. How do I do it again? I have a strong why. I have a strong vision. I have 3 daughters and a wife that need me, and you just keep pressing forward.
Well, I have such great producers, and David was so kind to squeeze us in his busy schedule today. So I know we got a bit of a hard stop coming up here, but let me we'll finish on this note. First of all, pick up a copy of One Decision Away Philosophy. We scroll and TikTok. Sometimes it's nice just pick up a book and get to know somebody. And the reason, and my big push right now is, I said, if there's a lot of content creators like me and others, and content, if we somehow were able to balance the ratio of content consumption to actually action and decision making to do something, if we could equal that up a little bit, a lot of money is going to be made. So spend some time with David Atkins. Get to know him through his book, One Decision Away Philosophy. One decision can change everything. Let's say someone in my world is considering a path of investor, entrepreneur. That means risk, work, resilience. Your weaknesses are going to be put on display, and there's a possibility of disappointment. Last 30 seconds, what are you going to tell that guy who's fighting over the grocery bill, who wants to lose a couple pounds? What are you going? He or she is sitting there on the fence.
Yep.
Help him make that decision. Go.
Yeah, I would think the biggest thing is don't let the start stop you. That's when most people get worried. And don't compare your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 12. Don't compare your start to what Andy's already done. Compare yourself to the person you were yesterday to be that much better. And don't worry about 3 weeks, 3 months, 1 year from now. I'm a big believer that life or the universe or God, whatever you believe in, will reveal to you what to do next. But you have to make that small step, because to your point, Andy, when you make those small incremental decisions with intention, and for me, one at a time, compounded over time, will lead to success. When I think of financially, for me, when I started the state police, and everybody's like, you need to put money like in your 401k, and I'm like, I'm 21, I don't need that crap. Well, my goodness, I'm so glad I put a good percentage of my check away and just kept putting it away, because over time I have what I have now these years later. So I think in life, stop focusing on where other people are, focus on yourself. Don't always focus also on how far you need to go once you start. Look back and see how far you've already came.
I'm so fortunate. When we started the podcast years ago, I never thought anyone would really listen to us, and now we've got a decent listenership. But I'm so grateful because I get to hang out with high-energy people. Yeah. My basketball coach, I was the worst basketball player in the history of my college forever, but I had a Hall of Fame coach, and at the beginning of the year, and this kind of, when people say, how was your interview with David, this is what I'm going to say. I said, he said, nothing great ever happens without enthusiasm. And I can tell you're a high-energy guy, and you bring it, baby. So you want to hang out with guys like that and ladies like that and people like that, and you want to read what they've written and start making decisions in your own life. What you focus on expands, so focus on making the one decision that can change everything. David, if you'd hang out for just a bit, we'll properly thank you. And let me ask, any other, I think it's David Atkins Speaks, isn't it? Isn't that your website?
Yeah, so davidatkinsspeaks.com is my website. I'm all over social media. You guys can look me up. And then, easy enough. All over social media, davidatkinsspeaks.com.
Hop in, grab the book, and you can also like and subscribe here for more content. We bring in lots of great people and experts like David. And also go to, I changed my free website, producer, so I got to I'm going to spit this out the right way this time. Go to cashflowbonus.com and pick up your free stuff. I've got free downloads, free stuff, no risk other than just that disappointment, and that one decision absolutely will change everything. David, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much.
Hope you guys enjoyed our conversation here at the Cashflow Academy Podcast. We'll see you next time.